Welcome back, me, and welcome back, you. That's right, I'm back for another episode of Preacher in the Hat after a 2-week hiatus of sorts. My name is Derek. Across from me is my brother Eric. To my left is my father Steve. Behind the cameras tonight, due to some technical difficulties, not on camera, is the one and only Chris Sumter. Tonight we are going to talk about something pretty interesting, already been covered by the likes of Back to the Future, Steve's personal favorite, Hot Tub Time Machine, and some other movies like that. But we're going to be talking time travel this evening.
What about The Time Machine?
Is there a movie called The Time Machine?
I'm sure I don't know.
We'll get a breakdown from Dad on his on Hot Tub Time Machine a little bit later, but we want to talk the mechanics of it. Is it possible? Who are the people leading the charge in making this happen? And, does science support it? Maybe that I already covered that. Also, is it possible? No. But that's my intro. Chris, are you intrigued?
Yes.
Okay. Eric, are you
A bit thrown, but I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
all right? So, Dad, you want to give us the, just a quick synopsis? Hot Tub Time Machine, go.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's not coming back to me now, though. How about that?
all right.
By coming back, and in order to come back, it would have at
Have to
some
been there
point
to
have
start
ever
with.
been there.
It's just I'm just not recollecting.
Am I the
it.
only person who wasted their time on that movie?
I unfortunately
certainly have no idea what you're
I
talking
unfortunately
about.
have to admit that I believe I have seen that movie. Yeah,
I have not.
I think I saw. I do think I saw the TV edited version.
That's probably what I saw too.
But,
I don't remember.
I have not seen it, and for that I'm grateful.
The general, I couldn't even tell you what the ending was or anything like that. Don't remember.
Oh, I have no clue. Yeah, I couldn't go back that far. The only thing I can tell you is that Daryl from The Office is in that.
That's
movie.
right.
That's-
I'm pretty sure that's why I watched
that's
it, because
all
I
I
was an
got.
Office fan at the time.
That's
well,
all
I
I
still am, but I remember him being in there. I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. One of the guys who's in season 9 of The Office was also cast in that movie. The guy who played Clark on The Office.
Okay.
was in that.
Not ringing a bell.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't name any other actors actually who were on that. So we chatted a little bit about this, well, off camera, I guess, in some prior days. And so we're not actually talking about time travel per se and the actual science behind that. We want to talk about I think this is the way we posed the question. If you could travel back, right, to one of the stories in the Bible to be present for that story, which one would you choose? And we had some interesting, I want to say, can I throw out, can I like,
Yeah,
can I,
start us off.
no, not
Eliminate?
start off all. Can I eliminate a couple of the obvious ones?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I mean, not because they're obvious, but like we would all love like to say like Jesus's birth. I don't know if you would want to be there for the crucifixion. Understand like now, like you have the understanding of what's happening. I guess maybe you would, but so maybe something a little. Besides
There was a show on years ago, and they were like time travelers, but they would always end up in a place like in a bad, like one of the bad characters. Like they didn't get to choose like where they fell out of the sky in the story. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I would love to see Noah's flood, but I kind of want to. I don't want to be on the outside.
Yeah,
knocking
make sure you're on the boat.
You know what I mean? I like kind of like a spot up front if I could, please. You know what I mean? Just saying.
Yeah.
That's all.
I don't know if they had another room for you. I would. So this one's probably another obvious one as well. But to me, there's always been so much, not ambiguity, but like really a lot of things that you don't really, a lot of detail that's left out of the story is when David slayed Goliath. Like, how tall was he? What was the actual like lead up to the quote unquote fight? how quickly did Goliath's army panic? Trying to think what else.
Well, some of that's told, right? Because this went on for days, I believe. You know, like they kind of like he came out and then they went back and he came out.
Well,
they were sitting around, you know, kind of like Groundhog Day, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yes, but I'm talking about like when when David decided that, okay, I got next or whatever. Like what was I don't know. To me, also, how tall was Goliath? That'd be the main thing. Like, dude, can I stand up next to you for just a sec?
If you'd seen him in the recent movie, David, the dude was huge, man. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
but we're also relying on, you know, someone's interpretation of that even then. So
well,
of how
it's
tall he
indicated he was probably about 9 foot tall, so
Right.
that's pretty good.
But like, was he, you know, was he agile or was he just like huge? He could wield a really big sword and had really far reach, so no one could like get to him. Like,
yeah.
there's just so much of that.
I think what you're asking-
David
know.
was a scat back and
Yeah,
he just kind of went around.
exactly. So, but it's not like he's like, oh, I'm just going to run around and tire him out, because it's not like Goliath was just going to chase him. Like, so you know,
That's right. That's right. Well, what you're describing is visualizing the details
Yeah.
so that you can emotionally put yourself in that spot. I think that's cool. I think it's cool. Great questions. I think those are great questions you asked.
There's no way it was as cinematic of a moment as it plays out in our head now.
You don't think so? You don't think it was dramatic?
No, cinematic.
Oh,
so like,
cinematic.
you know how
Okay.
we see it now in like movie form because we've seen it on screens so many times.
Yeah.
There's no way it was just like this. I mean, I'm sure
Well, there was not music in the background,
The armies
probably.
were large, I'm sure, but there wasn't just like this. You know, there's this sprawling shot, right? There were like, you know, armies stretch wide, and it zooms in like from behind the Israelite army, and it like pans over the army. Like that's how you kind of like see it happening in your mind, because that's how it shows up on screen. And it's just, you know, there's no way it was that. Like the dudes were like exhausted, and everybody was at the end of their rope. I don't know. I would like to see that for reasons because
You'd like to
because
see
I feel
it
like
more real?
because I feel like it didn't play out the way that my mind makes up.
Okay.
You know, makes it happen.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it would be very different. And I don't mean like the actual events playing out differently. I mean just like the feel of the moment, the day. Would probably feel like very ordinary, like another depressing day in the trenches kind of thing.
Yeah, because a lot of times after the fact, you would think, okay, there's an anticipation of the event, but when the event happened, there's not normally an anticipation of it. You know,
Sure.
You know, it just kind of happened. But now, when you're going back and looking at it, you're like, okay, what builds up to it? We know the details that build up to it, but like in life, we don't always know that. We just here
there
it
was
comes,
a lot
here it comes.
There was a lot on the line.
Yeah.
So I'm sure things did tighten up pretty quick, but I get the feeling that it was just like a very different looking day than like the way we put it on screen. I don't know.
Well, the way
It doesn't matter if it was or wasn't. That's
the way
just
it's put on screen now, the difference is there's music that enhances the dramatic piece, that build up. And back then, I've often thought about that. As you know, David's out there. There's no music. Okay, there's no music. You know, there's no, you know, that there isn't in movie stuff. So maybe
like a little bass in my war scenes.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah,
battles.
that's right.
On screen
That's right.
battles.
yeah, we do like that.
What else?
Well, you know, one of my favorites is something I talked about recently at church, and that was that story of King of Syria who was fighting the Israelites. I'd love to have been back in that scene, man. I really would have loved to have been back in that scene, because the King of Syria got mad because every move he made, he could tell somebody knew that the Israelites knew, and he got mad. He thought he had a snitch in the camp. You know, he thought it was somebody snitching him out to the Israelites. He thought maybe he had a traitor in his own camp. Well, that's real. Sometimes when we're facing something and it seemed like life, and we start looking around, who is the one that's messing it up, you know? And when you get in the middle of that kind of stuff, I can get in. I can visualize that a little bit, you know, and kind of emotionally connect with that is. And it looks like you're winning for a minute, and then all of a sudden the guy says, "Okay, let's find out what the real deal is." And somebody said, "Oh, it's that prophet Elisha that's doing it." And so the king brings this whole crowd around the city where he is now. So I'm in a motel, right? I'm in, motel, whatever, and I wake up in the morning and I look up, and the place is surrounded by cops. Or army, the National Guard, or whatever. There's horses and chariots, and in our day and age, there's tanks, maybe fighter jets. There are all those kind of things around us, and I look up and I think, how are we going to get out of here? It's over. It is over. And so that servant gets up, he looks up, he said, "Oh, we're cooked now. It's over." And I've been there before. I felt surrounded, and so that's an actual thing of being surrounded, in the hopeless sense. And then when Elisha comes out and looks and says, "There are more of us than there are of them." I always like to put myself, when I'm doing this, I like to put myself in one place. So let me put myself in the place of the servant that gets told by Elisha, there's more of us than there are of them. It's like, well, hold up a minute. 1, 2. There's 2 of us. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. That's one of my favorite places to go back to see how that all happened. And Elisha had to say, God opened his eyes so he could see. So that story is a story that combines a almost hopeless situation in the natural with the supernatural, which would deliver me from a natural situation. I've actually had that experience in other ways. Yeah. Like the time that I was told that I might get kidnapped in a prison. Okay. There's 400 inmates. I don't know which one of them is going to be the one, but I had to be careful. How are you going to get delivered from that? Well, just don't show up, get out of Dodge, do something. But I kept coming back, and I was delivered. Not quite sure how. Not quite sure how, but I was. So for me, I would have loved to go back to that one. Like we said, on time machine, go back and just experience that there. That in that moment, that must have been, how cool would have that been too? And then to see what happened later on, where God just blinded their eyes of the enemy, blinded the eyes of the enemy. That's a really cool thing to watch something to be delivered supernaturally from an impossible natural situation. I wouldn't mind going back and experiencing that with them. I guess because I know the end of the story.
Yeah, that's what makes it a little
Probably
easier.
I wouldn't love it if I was in it. Right. I'm sorry, Eric.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was trying to pick, I think there's a lot of stories that, or moments that would bring me back, or that I would want to be brought back to, while Jesus was alive. But I think it's easy to pick a lot of those, the miracles. It would be great to experience, the way that he fed everyone, with bread and fish, and, but watching that grow, and
like, was there some kids over there like what's happening right now? You know what I mean?
being on the boat, when he told the storm, to stop. some of those are ones that like immediately come to mind. I think there's some in the Old Testament that you'd almost like, you know what? I would love to have visual proof of that. Like the story about the people who the ground just opened up and swallowed them. Or Chris, when we were talking about this some last week, you mentioned the parting of the Red Sea. That's a big one.
That's a big one. That is.
Like, would I even now, like, would you even be able to go back now and have the courage to walk through it?
I wouldn't.
Even though you know you're going to get
scared
to
of
the
water.
other side, like, would you have the courage to walk through it?
Those are the stats that don't. I mean, you just assume it, they all walk through. You know, I can stay back here and get slaughtered, or I can walk through. But it doesn't really say that. You know, but it had to be incredible to just watch that play out.
Well, they looked behind them, and the people that were chasing them were swallowed up by the water.
Right. That's what he was. Yeah.
Well,
Right. What I mean was there any Judas Iscariots in there? You know, like
I see.
You know what I mean? Like,
he didn't believe it. In other words,
right.
Didn't believe it would hold up.
I always think it would be cool to be a child and get in a time machine and go back, like how children view things and how they, you know, how our kids approach things in life and stuff, and how they're in awe of things. You know what I mean? Because we always hear about, and they grumbled and they didn't like this, and he did all this stuff for them, and yet it's like, I wonder what the kids were like. And I know this is not a big one like you'd go back to, but I think of the manna, right? So these kids didn't have devices. I'm pretty certain of that. And so they're in the wilderness and they're like playing. They have to figure out a way to play and just entertain themselves. And this stuff's floating down in the sky. I don't know why I put myself in the mind of a child, like when they would probably run and try to catch it. I don't know if it was like laying out there in the morning. I don't know anything about it. But some of the conversations from a 5 or a 6 year old, you know, I mean, some of those kids would have seen. Am I getting my biblical history right? Would they have seen the plagues, or am I different?
I mean,
they were in the house. They were in the house.
You're talking about how much time has passed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, so, but I mean,
I see. I see
it
what
would
you're
depend.
saying.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so bad about that.
yeah, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, they may have been adults by the time they were seeing the man. I don't know, or teenagers maybe.
Right.
But you know, the firstborn son was supposed to be killed during the plagues.
Well, you just wonder, like these kids, they're out there and they get this manna and they eat it and whatever, and they're just in awe of it. And they've probably seen some stuff, right? I don't know how many miracles they've seen, but we always hear about their filthy parents that just can't learn from. I mean, they're very much unlike us today, you know. But the kids, you never hear about the kids. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if the kids are like, I mean, you don't remember? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just kind of wonder how kids are in awe of these types of things. Like they don't get awe. We get jaded by it. You know, it didn't take.
But not too many of the old folks got to go into the promised land. So we know that the children must have been responding differently, I would think.
Right.
Because he didn't want the old folks going into the promised land because of the way they had acted as adults.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one thing that would be good, this is not a specific event. One thing that would be really good for all of us, or I say all of us, a lot of us to experience would be to travel along, or maybe not even travel. I guess a lot of them were in specific spots, given very like specific places to do things, but with any one of the minor prophets, and to see the like, I don't even know how to describe it. What they had to go through to
The way they were treated, maybe?
the way they were treated, and how they had to continue to deliver the message that God gave to them to people who didn't want to hear what they had to say.
Yeah, wow.
I feel like that would be, we don't have a lot. Well, I mean, there's people here who don't want to hear what we've got to say, but pushing through that and continuing even when you delivering a message when you know people don't want to hear it. Because we have a tendency now to say, well, I know that person's not really going to be interested in what I have to say, or they're going to be mad at it. I know they're going to be mad at it. So what's the point?
Sure.
You'd be one of those minor prophets that like never got a staff, never got a miracle. You just be like, I'm just telling these guys stuff that they're never going to do, and then I die. You know what I'm saying?
And that's it.
That's it. Right.
And you know what? I forgot to write anything down.
Exactly.
I haven't even been taking notes.
But seriously, like these were people who were going through all of this, being, talked about like who knows what, we don't know, knowing that they weren't going to experience any of the things that they were prophesying.
Right. That's tough.
Yeah.
Some of the people are mentioned in Hebrews 11. They said some people received it and some people never received it. Some people were beaten, and like you're talking about, some of them were received a little bit, but some were not. Many were not.
I just think that would be a really good learning experience.
It would
for
be.
a lot of us these days.
Would be.
I know it would be for me.
If you like being popular,
If you like going 0-12,
if you don't like losing,
You're probably not keeping record at that point. I don't think.
if you
those
don't
minor
mind being
prophets.
called a loser,
you just
I like being a Mountaineer fan, but
you
yeah,
just
I get it.
appreciate the wins when they come.
Right.
Yeah.
or maybe like
Don't
Saban
count the
says,
losses.
if you want to please people and make them happy, don't be a leader. Just sell ice cream.
Yeah.
I guess that was certainly true for the prophets, wasn't it? They weren't doing it because they were pleasing people. That's for sure.
Something that I would go back and like to experience, if for no other reason than to actually get out of my head the only thing I can think about when I hear the story, is I would go back and watch the walls of Jericho fall down, because the only thing that I can think of when I think about that story is Josh and the Big Wall, the VeggieTales episode.
Got to clear your head on that one.
Gotta clear my head on Jericho, man.
So what do you have to
That's
clear
all
from Josh and the Big Wall? Tell me.
Well,
I don't
I'm pretty
remember.
certain they weren't actually taunted by pouring slushies down on them. The Israelites did not invent the Walminator 3000.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Great episode, by the way, but it's the only thing I can think about whenever I think about Jericho. So
But what if you
I
like-
could stand to watch those walls fall for myself.
I would like to
and
know
see
all for like the people who weren't leading the charge, like
Just
the
how
followers,
ridiculous
If they
it
were
was.
like, "This is ridiculous,"
That's what I was going through my mind,
yeah,
Derek.
and just
right
to be
away.
like, I would like to know what the belief was.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
obviously, you had the people who were like, "This God has instructed us to do this. We got to do this." But then for the people who were like,
LOL.
"Yeah,
So for
this
those
is not."
for those of us that slept in Bible class a little bit, I know they marched, but what was it like?
Seven
Seven times.
One time
One
for
time-
6 days.
Yeah, and then 7 times on the 7th.
7 time on the 7th day, I believe that's correct.
That's when the
Unless it
walls
was
came
7
down. That's
times on
correct.
the 8th.
No.
Yes,
and the point of it was that it was an enemy of the Lord.
It was obedience.
Yeah, but I mean, he wanted the walls to come down for what was the purpose? I guess I'm confused about that story. Like,
It's time for a Bible story, it sounds like.
sounds like it.
It was kind of like the gateway, right, to like where they were headed. I think Jericho was so like they wouldn't just be able to like walk around like, oh, gotta avoid Jericho, like
They wouldn't be able to overcome the army who was within the walls of Jericho.
Is that Rahab? That's the same story or not? Are we? Man,
and they essentially had to go through that people, not just the city walls, but like they weren't going to be able to just travel by.
and Peter, James, and John led the march.
Oh boy, yeah,
I'm kidding. It's a joke.
that was long after their time, Chris.
Wink, wink.
Go ahead and throw.
These learned
Everybody
Bible
off.
students that are listening to Preacher in the Hat at the moment are going crazy right now. So
You won't enjoy this. Yeah, I would love to get a reset on that story. And what you mentioned about how people just being, I'm sure there were folks just absolutely fed up with that approach, especially day 5, day 6,
Or day 7 when like now we're going 7 times and you're like, you can't be serious.
Well, and I think maybe every day they're not sure what's going to happen. They don't know the end. That's
true.
Right. Or they maybe don't even know what they're going to do at the end. Like they're walking it to be obedient. They're walking it to be obedient. You're like, okay, now we've done this. Like, when can we attack? Like, when are you going to win the battle for us? Like, when we charge in, and then it's like, oh no, you're not even doing that.
I always thought about that. Like, I don't think Jericho really saw the threat.
There's no way.
Because they're just walking around, right? So they're literally just like, I mean, okay, we're gonna hang
banging
out.
on things.
We're gonna hang out in here.
Yeah.
Banging on
You know,
things.
if you guys are ready to fight, you know, throw us a little knock on the door, and you know, because if they're just like walking around, you'd be like, okay, well, I mean, really? Well, I guess they would have like
Probably would make fun of
they
them.
would have had intelligence making sure that they weren't setting something up or doing all this stuff.
They were a little bit like like modern day protesters. You know what I'm saying? Who were not being violent at the moment. They were just protesting and
so
making
they're
a lot of racket.
They're probably just keeping an eye on.
Yeah, they were
right?
keeping
You're
an eye on them, just like
let's
a lot
make
of
sure these folks and they're walking around again. Okay.
Yeah, they're walking. Here they go. Okay. Look how ridiculous they look. Just shouting and hollering and banging on things and all that kind of stuff. You know, when you visualize the details, that's pretty cool. And then the second thing is not just visualizing the details, but also what do we know about human nature related to that story? You know, and apply what we know about human nature to that story. Well, you already did, where you're saying, hey, it was a deal where probably some of them are like, what are we doing this for? This is ridiculous, you know. I mean, what did they say when they were out in the wilderness later on, right? What did they say? Oh, yeah, you know, you brought us out here to die.
Yeah.
Good luck. You know what I'm saying? You know, okay, we're out here. You brought us out here. Oh, we got away from the Egyptians and all the slavery, but you brought us out here to die.
And I think
send us back to Egypt. That's human nature.
Yeah, and I think it's probably one of those things at the beginning where they say like we've got a word from the Lord. We're supposed to do this, and everyone's like, okay, cool. And then, but probably by like day 3 or 4, like Eric, you were saying, you're like, oh,
Yeah, whatever.
I'm not sure this.
And you're like, okay, and then you're like, okay, he's gonna pay it off. He's gonna pay it
Yeah.
off, and then they get to day 7, and they're like,
This is 7 times. We got to do it.
Day 5, I just can't
you
do
know
my
when-
5-minute devotional. It just
What I hate was when people do what we're doing and they get to that point, Eric, that you're talking about, and then we somehow sit here thousands of years later critiquing them as though we can't figure out why they did that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I actually understand why they would be like, whatever, this is day 7. I don't even know if I'm ready. You know, I don't even want to get out of bed and do this or out of the tent, wherever they were, you know.
I just think that there's probably lots of groaning through those first 6 days, but then just like disbelief and shock at how weak, in quotation marks, the culmination of the plan
walls were.
felt.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. How weak the plan
you're
looks.
You're just supposed to be behind us in battle now and give us the victory in battle, not walk 7 times as much as we have all week and then blow horns and yell, you know, like, and that be it.
So think about it. Y'all remember years ago, guys, when we went to the March for Jesus or something? You remember that downtown Birmingham? Remember that?
Way back. I think maybe
That was way back.
Maybe vaguely I remember.
Yeah, and it was.
that.
But you know, sometimes I'd be like, "What are we doing this for?" You know what I'm saying? Like, how effective is this to be marching down the street, singing praises and doing this and doing that? You know, we look kind of foolish. We're not really doing anything. We weren't helping anyone. We weren't attacking anyone. We weren't plowing and we're just doing what? Worshiping and doing this and I think sometimes maybe worship leaders, I think sometimes that's how people view worship. Is a little bit like, well, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? When in fact, it's a supernatural component that we We don't, but our human nature sometimes says, how is this helpful? You know? But I have a story that will not go on this episode, probably, but in Israel, I had several moments where I went back in my mind and did what I think is the third step, and what Tony Stoltz was talking about being the third step. Not only visualize it, be able to see where that synagogue was, where Peter, right across the street from Peter's house in Capernaum, but to go back and read the story after I visited that site and put myself to put myself in one of the characters' shoes. And I was able to do that, and it was one of the most profound experiences of my whole visit there. And
All right.
one thing you can do when you visit the Holy Land is to do that. But we don't have to visit the Holy Land to do it. Let's do it some more. With some more stories, huh?
So you heard from us on places, events we'd like to see from the Bible. So tell us what yours are, and come back next week. We're probably going to spend a little time talking about who we'd like to spend time with. So for Derek and Steve, Chris behind the cameras, my name's Eric. We'll see you next time.